This eSchool News Report is brought to you by CCC, Video on Demand from New Dimension Media. The best core curriculum content, the latest technology, the new leader in video on demand. Visit us at ndmccc.com.
School children in developing nations such as China and India might be better equipped for the demands of the 21st century than their European and American counterparts because they're adapting faster to changing needs, a new report says. Naturally, the report has generated some controversy here in the United States, where education researcher Gerald Bracey believes the report is misleading for a few reasons. eSchool News assistant editor Laura Ascione reports.
U.S. and European school children are losing ground to countries such as China and India that are producing more of the highly skilled workers the 21st century demands, according to Education at a Glance, an annual study by the Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Richer nations, especially in Europe, face a growing lack of ambition among students, fed partly by social inequalities that schools have failed to redress, the report goes on to say. Not everyone agrees with this assessment. Gerald Bracey, an independent researcher and author of Reading Educational Research, How to Avoid Getting Statistically Snookered, says the OECD's latest report is flawed for two reasons. First, it doesn't compare the quality of education that students receive in the U.S. and Europe with those of developing nations. And second, it overlooks key variables. In an interview with eSchool News earlier this year, Bracey explained what some of those variables are.
Well, if you look at what's been said about American education by Japanese educators, by Singaporean educators, by some American educators, American education is a system that values question asking. And even, as one article said, questioning authority. That's not true of most other education systems, especially the Asian systems. And I think that instilling a willingness and an enjoyment of asking questions gives us the edge that we see in innovation and creativity.
Despite his words of encouragement for U.S. educators, Bracey also warned that we're measuring the success of our students all wrong. If we're not careful, he suggested, the OECD could have a point.
I really live in fear that programs like No Child Left Behind will lead us to idolize high test scores and away from what I figure has been our strength, and that is our culture of inquiry. The kids who are very bright and the kids who need a lot of additional attention are both neglected in this kind of one-size-fits-all. And we have shown that empirically that some research finds that the teachers and the administrators emphasize working with what they call the bubble kids, the kids that are on that bubble, maybe with some extra effort will get over, and they tend to ignore what they call the hopeless cases and what they call the can't misses. So as long as the focus is on that, just getting enough growth to make adequate yearly progress, you're really ignoring or miseducating the kids at the extremes.
Reporting for eSchool News, I'm Laura Ascione.
That's it for this month's edition of Tech Watch. Tune in next month for an exclusive interview with Vinton Cerf, Chief Internet Evangelist for Google and considered one of the founders of the Internet, who will discuss why he believes the current battle in Congress over the principle of net neutrality could have huge implications for the nation's schools. Reporting for eSchool News, I'm Dennis Pierce.